Everybody, so once again, I'm starting my live stream a little bit early. I'm not really good with sticking to a schedule. Um, there's some things I need to get off my chest. So first of all, that live stream that I did, what I said that I was announcing that I was going to release my book for free for 2 days. Apparently, I got some dislikes because some of you tried to download it and it's not available for free. I made that announcement stating explicitly that it was only going to be free for 2 days. Like when you go on Amazon KDP, you only get 5 days to release your book for free. So I didn't want to waste them and use them all at once in case I want to make it available for free later. So if you can't get the book for free, it's because it was only available for those 2 days. But I made three announcements that the book was going to be free for 2 days. So um, if you guys are still interested in the book, I can do another free release, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If you guys don't tell me that what the issue is, if you're just disliking the video because you couldn't get it for free, then I don't know what the actual issue is. From my like I don't know what you guys are actually thinking. I'm assuming that people just don't want to read the book, but if you are actually interested and you want me to make it available for free, I can absolutely do that. Um, Now, I want to get into this topic. I'm actually streaming on both of my channels today. Today, I'm going to discuss the whole expression that life is what you make it. I mean, a lot of people make this assumption, but it assumes facts that are not in evidence. It is not true. Life is not what you make it. Um, and what my book argues is that life is what the master state makes it, right? The state controls a lot of things that people take for granted. They think that they have so much control over their life. They don't. They make these expressions, you're the master of your own fate, your life is in your hands. Um, and I think people this question needs to be examined because people are not being honest about how much control they actually have over their own lives. Let's start with the most important two questions, right? Your birth and your death, right? Did you have any control over those two decisions? No. You had absolutely no control over that. You had no control. You had zero control over your birth, and you have limited control over your death, right? Everything that happens in between are just irrelevant details. It's window dressing. It's just noise, right? Um, you didn't choose to be born. You didn't choose your geographic location. You didn't choose your parents, despite the whole soul contract bullshit that we chose our parents without any evidence whatsoever. We did not choose our parents. Our parents chose us. They chose to impose life on us. They created us without our consent, and it was completely self-serving. So now you're here. You don't have a right to leave. You don't. And I'm sorry for some of you who keep conflating with an ability. An ability does not create a right. A right is a legal entitlement. The fact that you have a physical ability to do something does not translate into having a legal or moral right to actually do it. Um, the master state makes the ultimate decisions when it comes to your life. It criminalizes your ability to obtain a peaceful exit. It prohibits medical assistance and dying for anyone who isn't already at death's door. Um, it forces you to continue existing whether you want to or not. So you don't control your arrival and you don't control your departure. These are the two most fundamental decisions about your existence, the beginning and the end. Everything in between um, is completely irrelevant. Like it's going to give you the illusion of freedom. Um, let's talk about what happens in the middle between your birth and your death, right? What about your existence did you actually choose? And I want you to think about this very carefully. You chose what you wore today, right? You chose your shirt, you chose what you ate for breakfast. You To the extent that you can afford the car that you want, maybe you chose the car that you drive, maybe you chose your phone. You chose what shows you watch on Netflix, right? These are just consumer choices, right? Because they want to put so much emphasis on consumer choices as if that actually is the indicia of freedom. It's not. Um, that's not control over your actual life. It's it's merely control over the products which you buy from a limited options that the market provides. It's like being in an open air prison and getting to choose between chicken and fish, right? Or chicken and tofu. But you're still in the cage and you don't choose whether you remain in the cage or not. You didn't choose to be put in the cage in the first place, and you're not allowed to escape that cage. So, what color shirt you wear, what show you watch on YouTube, whether you choose tofu or chicken, those are completely irrelevant details. They're not dispositive about your existence. Nothing about your existence is voluntary. Nothing that actually matters, right? You want to focus on consumer choices as if that changes anything. For those of us who are life slaves who don't enjoy, um okay, let me be careful. By the way, I think I need to create my own platform, because it's too hard to talk around these subjects, where I have to walk on eggshells and not say certain things, at the risk of having my channel taken down. I've already had my other channel taken down, so it's going to be hard for me to promote my book effectively when I can't talk about the subjects, openly and honestly. So I think I need to create my own platform where I can speak honestly to you all. Um, so the fact that you can choose what clothes you wear, the fact that you can choose what car you drive, does not prove that you have ultimate control of your life. These are trivial decisions, meaningless decisions. Even the food that you choose is meaningless. You don't actually own your damn life, which is what my book establishes comprehensively. They are illusions of freedom designed to make you think that you're in control and you're not. The master state lets you think that you're in control when the master state has the ultimate say, right? Your consumer choices are not threats to the system, right? Your consumer choices allow the system to function. You're just a cog in a machine. You're just someone, a wage slave to purchase goods and services to keep the system flowing. Um, you can continue focusing on choosing between brands, between eating a steak and going vegan and choosing between a Honda and a Toyota Corolla. You can do that if you want to. You're not. It takes a little bit more courage to actually look behind the curtain and see who's actually pulling the damn strings, right? You can easily point to someone who's a life slave and talk about their choices, but you don't actually have the courage to actually buck up to the damn system. Very few people do. And the few of us who have done it, we have paid the ultimate price. Um, we've had our lives completely destroyed. So miss me with the consumer choices bullshit unless you're actually going to stand up to the damn system. Now, what did you actually choose? Let's talk about your limited choices when it comes to your life and what the master state actually controls. Did you actually choose your medical care? Absolutely not. You can't just choose anyone. You can't just choose a random stranger who you think is competent to provide you with medical services. No, you need to hire a licensed professional who has obtained a, whatever credentials the master state has determined were sufficient, right? A medical degree or nursing degree, some license, um, some criteria which you did not determine, right? Um, if you wanted to hire someone who you thought was competent, that would actually be against the law because there are occupation licenses in every state which would preclude you from hiring a person of your own choosing, right? If you want to, if you have a desire, excuse me, if you have a desire to explore alternative medicine, guess what? You don't actually have that right. During the whole COVID hysteria, there were people who were uh, offering alternative choices, and they were not even allowed to present those alternative choices. They were systematically censored on social media. They had to put labels on it, right? Um, like Amazon had some screening that they were doing. Um, and so you're not even allowed to get the information. I actually had alternative uh, treatments for COVID, which were effective, but I guess I wasn't allowed to actually talk about that because people who did take alternative medicine, they had their channels taken down. So I couldn't even tell you what I took because, well, maybe now people are willing to hear what I took, but back then we were not allowed to talk about it. You're only allowed to take whatever medicine the state has approved, right? You need to get a prescription. You need to go through gatekeeping, medical gatekeeping, where you don't know your own body, you don't know your own health, you don't know shit. You're completely incompetent. You're supposed to be a complete idiot. Walk in and trust the doctors, some random stranger who probably doesn't know that may, unless they have specialized, unless they know something about nutrition. A lot of them are not well versed when it comes to alternative medicine. Like they're I'm not going to say that they're not. Of course, they're knowledgeable. They have a lot of training, but it's state approved training, right? It's whatever the state allowed them to learn. That's what they know, and that is all that they know. They don't know anything about nutrition. They don't know anything about alternative medicine. So they're very smart people. They're very knowledgeable about whatever the standard of care happens to be. But that's it. That is the limitation of their medical reach, right? They don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and they want you to think that you're so incompetent that you can't even make decisions about your own health, your own survival. But again, this is the master state who has the ultimate say. Your food. Do you actually control your food? No. The government regulates what you can eat, what can be sold, what farmers can grow, and what they're not allowed to grow, right? Are you allowed? Well, I don't think that you're able to get raw meat. I mean, sorry, raw milk. Sorry, in a lot of places, right? That it's not approved. It's not approved by the FDA. It's illegal in many places, right? Certain supplements are illegal, banned. Um, they have cottage laws and I guess most states, if not all states, but they're heavily regulated. Um, the state decides what you're allowed to consume, right? You can try to grow your own vegetables, but unless you're doing that, everything everything else is heavily regulated. You don't choose what food you. I'm not going to say you don't have any choice, but it's like they gave you some limited options, and then you basically get to choose among those options. It's not a free market. It absolutely is not. And of course, all of these protections are for your benefit, right? The master state knows better than you. You're so stupid and incompetent, you can't decide what is in your rational self-interest. Now, your ability to work. Let's get to the elephant in the room, right? You want to earn a livelihood cutting hair. You want to be a cosmetologist. You want to braid hair. You want to be a plumber. You want to be an attorney. You want to do anything, right? Anything that is worthwhile, anything that actually um, pays well, right? Guess what? You're going to have to take anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 hours of state approved training to obtain a license, right? Um, and it's getting worse. It's getting infinitely worse. Where it's almost like you can't even exist without having a damn license. Um, Medical licensing, accounting licensing, electrical work, and it's not just like certifications, right? To where you would just have to prove your actual competency. No, a lot of these licenses have, in addition to the so-called competency criteria, it's also character and fitness, right? So they have these arbitrary character and fitness requirements in which the government gets to gatekeep who gets to work. So if you don't have certain character because your political beliefs or whatever it happens to be that does not meet up to what their standard of an ethical person happens to be, then you don't have a right to work, right? If you're in debt, if you have student loan debt that you're not allowed to pay because the master state won't allow you to work, then your character and fitness is insufficient, and so they're not going to allow you. They're not going to allow you the ability to work so that you can pay your student loans, and then they are going to basically shame you for not paying your student loans, even though they're not allowing you to work, so that you would have the ability to pay it. So, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And then they talk about personal responsibility, right? You took the student loans, right? Oh, well, that was your choice. You took those student loans because why? Was it really voluntary? Was it really voluntary when a magistrate was actually going to throw you in a cage if you attempted to earn a livelihood without obtaining their educational requirements, right? This is what they determine. This is their criteria. You're trying to comply with the master state. And then society is going to say, oh, well, it was your choice. You didn't have to take those student loans, right? And of course, student loans are it's like the only debt that is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Why is that? Because as I stated in my book, capitalism is illegitimate. Capitalism is state violence. It has no basis under natural law. They set the rules, they choose the winners and losers, right? And then when you are a loser, they want to say it's your fault. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? It's your damn fault. You had so much control over how your life actually turned out. You're just so weak. You're so pathetic. You should have just rose above all these restrictions that the master state imposed on you. Um, Other people did it. Why couldn't you did it? Why can't you do it? Why are you so pathetic? It's your fault. It's not our fault. It's not democracy. It's not that the public actually supports this oppression. It's not the fact that the public actually extracts surplus value from your involuntary existence and that the public wants you to continue being exploited and to continue being oppressed because the public benefits from your involuntary existence. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. You chose to be here. It's your fault that because you chose to be here. Like your soul contract, you had a soul contract with your parents before you were even born, and and the fact that you didn't Toyota Corolla yourself means that you actually want to be here. So the fact that you didn't nobody want guys these people are so fucking irrational, right? Which I can't even say it on YouTube, so I guess I'll leave it. Y'all probably already know where I'm going. The fact that you didn't take these extreme measures proves that you actually want to be here. It makes no fucking sense. It's the constant scapegoating of the person who's a complete and total victim of things that were completely beyond their control. But no, because you have limited control over your consumer choices, that means that this is your fault. Let's see who I have here. Um, let's. Well, I'm glad you made it. Life does not be what you make it. It never was. It's not now. Instead, it is what makes you. Exactly. Exactly. That. Thank you for saying that because I think I would have been remiss to not even address that. Life makes you. Like people always want to throw pitchforks at the monster, the asshole, right? They don't look at how somebody became an asshole, right? Nobody is born an asshole. Like you become an asshole as a product of your circumstances. When you have gone through hell, when you have been abused, when a system has oppressed you, when you have tried to advocate for your own liberation, you've tried to fight the system based on the fact that they told that you actually have constitutional rights, by the way, right? You have to go to law school thinking, oh, well, I'm going to learn the law so that I can actually liberate myself by understanding the law and actually defending myself against state oppression. Good luck with that shit. Good luck with the damn summary judgments and the fucking qualified immunity, judicial immunity, absolute immunity. Uh, I already told y'all how sovereign. Y'all got to read the damn book. I mean, I could sit here and spoon feed you, but I don't think you're really going to get the full picture until you actually read the book. I know people don't like to read anymore; it's boring. I maybe I'll do an ebook, but I mean, an audio version. You guys need to read the book. I can try to talk about it on here, but you're not going to get the full story without actually reading it. Um, you don't have any damn rights. You have rights on paper. When you actually try to enforce them, there is no way to enforce it. The courts have been captured. They don't give a shit about your damn rights. You're a slave. Do what you're told. Go back and be a damn wage slave. And who are you to challenge the damn master state? Um, you bug up to the system too much, and they're going to put you in your place. Then they're going to call you a vexatious litigant, and then stigmatize you for the rest of your life. Now, let me read the rest of this comment. For it makes the terrorists, the abused, the disabled, vengeful villains, the corrupted. Exactly. All of that shit is absolutely true. I'm not even going to go into detail. I'm not going to go into detail about what you said was completely spot on. Um, they make all of these people. All these people are products of society, but nobody wants to take responsibility for it, right? Because as I state in my book, these people are natural slaves. This is what Aristotle said. They're natural slaves. They're not even worthy. They don't understand the power that they have under democracy, right? They want ultimate power, right? But they don't want any responsibility for the outcome. So they're natural slaves. They're unfit to govern. These people are they don't have any accountability, any self-reflection for the policies that they promulgate, right? Um, by the way, when I talk about the master state is the people. That's what I say explicitly in chapter 6. It's the master state is not some nebulous like um entity that that's undefinable. No, the master state is the American public or wherever you live, Canada, uh, Japan, wherever the hell you live, the master state is the public. So I want you, if you guys don't if I don't say that explicitly again, I want you to know when I talk about the master state, I'm actually talking about the public. Now, where was I? The power to license is the power to destroy, right? It, I want y'all to know this, and I'm talking from personal experience that my inability to obtain a license, a damn law license, after 4 years of undergrad, after going into the military, taking out all the student loans. I mean, I'm not even going into detail about the debt, but 3 years of undergrad, 3 years of obtaining a Juris Doctorate, um, and then I can't work without a damn license. Y'all keep talking about because you read my book, you think because I'm making some sophisticated legal arguments, a lot of you are assuming that I'm an attorney. No, I'm not an attorney. I don't know like how many times I have to. I'm not an attorney. You can have a law degree all you want. You can know the law in and out, and I can run circles around a lot of attorneys. I'm not going to say like I'm well versed when it comes to criminal law. I'm well versed when it comes to constitutional law. If you were to ask me about property law, I mean, I guess I could keep up with the average attorney. If I research, I'm not good with the state's law. I'm not good with a lot of things. But when it comes to constitutional law, yes, even when I take the bar exam, it's like those areas, the constitutional law, family law, there's certain areas where I score really well, but there's other shit that I don't give a fuck about. It's like they throw the whole pot in. You got to know every damn thing, even if you're not going to practice in that, because it is not about competency. It's about trying to screen people. They want to throw everything in a damn in the bathwater, and then you're supposed to know everything, and then of course you forget everything as soon as you're done with the damn exam because you don't retain a shit. You cram it in, it's rote memorization, and then you go on about your life. If you were to ask any of these attorneys basic shit about the law, even though they passed the bar exam, they don't know shit because they did not retain it. Anyway, I don't want to get going around about the bar exam. It's not unique to just the legal profession. It's the same thing with a lot of these professions. I would probably say the medical profession is probably a little bit more empirical. It's more math and science. But even that, there's a lot of gatekeeping. The fact that they got the whole COVID, the science behind COVID was completely wrong. I could talk about that too, but I don't really want to get off track. But how do these well-trained medical professionals get this wrong? After all of your training, you were bamboozled to think that a virus can exist. in the air for 72 hours and it's actually active, right? What did you like? Anyway, anyway, that just shows how powerful the master state is because you're going to believe your own lying eyes, your own actual training, right? Because it's an appeal to authority. Whatever the master state says goes. So fuck whatever you learned in medical school. The master state said that a virus can actually exist for 72 hours outside of a damn hole. So all of your training goes out the window because the master state has the final say. So you don't even trust your own thoughts, your own intellect. You're supposed to be a fucking automaton and just believe what the master state says. So the power to license is the power to destroy. It will absolutely destroy your life because without a damn license, you don't have a right to earn a livelihood. You don't have a right to exist. You're basically going to be forced into poverty, into squalor. Um, they don't give a shit. You're just roadkill. They're going to step over you and move on to the next one. And then when you talk about it, nobody gives a shit because it's your fault. And of course, they don't care about you because you have so much education that you're actually better. They assume that you're better than them, and you don't actually need any help. Um, if the master state allows you to work, um, you're only working with permission. It's not. People think that it's a meritocracy. No, it's not. The master state chooses winners and losers. It's not. It's not necessarily the person's fault. In a state like the only meritocracy is anarchy, right? I meant to talk about the difference between a free market and a free market. I never got to that, but the way the libertarians have framed it, there is no such thing as a free market under statism. You can only have a free market, which we call the free market under anarchy, because even under libertarianism, there's comprehensive state interference with the market. So there is no such thing as a free market. There's only a free market, which is free from state interference. So um, just by denying you the right to earn a livelihood, the master state has the absolute power to force you to starve, right? And of course, you can get some shitty job, which of course I did, but I had to take all of my education off my off my job applications, off my resume, because nobody would hire me if they knew how much education I have. And I just talked about the JD, the BA. I didn't even mention the damn master's degree. So I have a massive amount of student loan debt, which I will never be able to repay. It's a sunken cost. Like you think, well, okay, it didn't work out with those degrees. Let me go back and get another degree. Maybe this time things will be different. No, the whole thing was a trap. They told you that if you get an education, you would be flipping burgers for the rest of your damn life. It's a lie. It's a scam. Don't fall for the okie doke like I did. I'm not. That's not to say that you can't be successful. Um, but you're going to have to play by their rules. You're going to have to toe the line. You're going to have to be on a straight and narrow. Don't do what I did. Don't buck up to the system. Don't file lawsuits. Don't write letters to the Supreme Court telling them to go fuck themselves, right? Which is what I did. Don't write the governor. Don't go toe to toe with the attorney general. Don't do any of that shit. Don't do anything that I've done. Now, if you don't get an occupational license, guess what? These are felonies. These are not misdemeanors. I know people who have attempted to provide legal advice. Oh gosh, y'all, this rant is going to be much longer than I intended. People who have attempted to provide legal advice. Do you know that we have a right to freedom of speech? Right, giving an opinion is protected under the First Amendment. And when you file a lawsuit, you're not just filing a lawsuit. It comes under the First Amendment right to petition the government. Um, a lot of you guys don't know this, that under the First Amendment, you have a right to petition the government, which includes the right to petition the court. So it is considered it's considered political speech. When you legal advice is political speech. It's core political speech. But somehow the courts have really, really thrown. It's like the Constitution has just been thrown in the damn trash can. They steamrolled it. They put it in the shredder. The Constitution doesn't mean shit. The Supreme Court has completely turned the Constitution on its head. It doesn't not mean shit. You don't have any fucking rights. is basically where I'm going. You don't have any rights. You don't have any rights whatsoever. Maybe you have some rights when it comes to like against you and your neighbor, right? Maybe if somebody violates you, you can call the police. But when it comes to between you and a master state, you have no fucking rights. They have, and by the way, qualified immunity is essentially, effectively, absolute immunity. Um, you can't sue a state actor. You can't. Even even, even if they were to, even if they were to take your life, they would get off. They would get off because the standard for suing them is so substantial. It would be very, and under very limited circumstances, you would actually be compensated for, like, if your loved one was shot by a police officer. Um, they give absolute deference, right? They acted in good faith. They thought the person had a gun, right? Um, they can make any excuse, any justification. The court is going to absolutely get it. And the problem is that you're supposed to have a right to a jury trial. You don't have a right to a jury trial because it's going to be dismissed through summary judgment. So, why do we even have a constitutional right to a jury trial, right? What's the point of the Seventh Amendment if the courts can just abrogate it and say, oh, you don't really need a jury. The court is going to decide because no reasonable jury could actually find in your favor. So we're going to just dismiss it. We're going to make assumptions about what the jury actually would have decided. So you don't have a right to a jury trial. You don't. Um, none of the most important constitutional rights are actually being enforced. The Constitution is so fucking worthless. We may as well just get rid of it. I don't even understand why do we even have a damn constitution? Well, I could say that we have a constitution because it basically enslaves you. It's not serving its proper function, which is to put a check on state power. No, it's to put a check on your rights. Right? You only have rights that are enumerated in the Constitution. Rights that whatever rights the courts recognize. Whatever limited rights they actually recognize, that's what you have. You can't use it to actually liberate yourself to stand up to state power. It to me is fucking worthless. I don't know how any attorney can actually look at themselves and actually look in the mirror and actually have any self-respect because you are the system's bitch. Maybe you are a well-paid bitch, but you're a bitch nevertheless. Um, your education. In order to get those occupation licenses, you have to get substantial education. And a lot of this education is completely useless, right? You got to get a lot of education that is not even related to your field. A lot of it is just pure indoctrination, manufactured consent for state oppression, right? That you get thousands of dollars in student loans, hundreds of hours wasted where you could have actually been working and getting some damn experience, right? Because that is a lot. That is a mistake that a lot of people make because they go straight to college. They work. They put off working because they just think that the jobs are going to be there when they graduate. They're not going to be there. A lot of times you would have been better off getting like starting at the bottom and working your way up instead of getting an education because you don't have any experience. And they're not going to give you the experience. And if you get too much education, like I did, nobody's going to give you any opportunity. I could talk about the stories I've had where I did internships and then they found out how much education I had and how they tried to sabotage me. It's happened so many times. I had to learn the hard way to not even tell people how much education I have. Anyway, the curriculum is determined by the state. It's approved by the state, designed by the state. You don't choose what you need to learn in order to carry out your vocation, right? Under common law, a lot of these vocations were not through traditional education. A lot of it was through apprenticeships. Even the legal profession, there were no law schools. People learned through apprenticeships, like Kim Kardashian is doing. And Kim Kardashian actually learned the traditional way. And everybody's trying to shame her. Oh, you didn't actually graduate law school. What the hell did you know? Abraham Lincoln didn't graduate from a damn law school either. Guess what? Abraham Lincoln was pretty damn competent. A lot of the founding fathers didn't graduate from law school. Anyway, now let's get to capitalism. Once you finally get permission to work after going through all these hoops, now you have another hurdle, right? You create value, real value through your productivity, right? Your labor, your time, your energy, your creativity. But you don't get to keep most of that actual value, right? Because that's going to be extracted by the capitalist and then it's going to be extracted by the master state. So over a lifetime, you create millions of dollars in value. You don't actually see the value that you created because it's being extracted. You see the meager wages that is the crumbs that you actually fed after everybody else got their cut. It's extracted, right? Capitalists who contribute nothing, the parasites on society, um, who actually contribute nothing to production, right? They own the businesses, they own equipment, they own the real estate that is illegitimate because it's enforced through state violence, right? Um, Not because they use it, but because um they have they control the means of production, but they don't actually produce. That's the difference. Which you guys have to read chapter 7 of my book because I explain in detail how capitalism actually works. Um, you work, they profit. The state ensures this arrangement through perpetual violence. You don't get to maintain. You don't get to keep the value that you created. Um, you get a paycheck, right? You're basically running your life to the capitalist. That's wage slavery, which I've also talked about. That's not freedom. That's not making your life what you make it. That's basically making the best of a shitty situation that you were thrown in. Now let's talk about the legal system, which I've already talked about. Oh gosh, the legal system is such a racket, right? You're driving to work, you're commuting to work, right? And then some road pirate pulls you over, not because of an actual public safety violation, but no, this is opportunism. They see you like a damn alligator, right? You're just the gazelle trying to get a drink of water, and the alligator wants to snatch you up and take your life force out of it. That's what the road pirate does. The road pirate is a parasite who's trying to generate revenue for the municipal government. Um, and the only way he can do that is by imposing citations, which are not even valid under due process because a citation is not a proper charging instrument. But you don't know that, right? So you're just going to go and make some deal with the prosecutor. You're going to get a deferred adjudication. You're going to do your driver training course, whatever, defensive driving course, whatever the hell they call it. You're going to pay your little fine so that you get to live your your slave existence, right? Right? And a lot of people think that it's worth it. They don't actually want to fight it because they just want to go on to the gym. They want to go watch their Netflix. They don't give a shit that somebody just made them their bitch, right? They're just going to pay it. They don't know how to fight it, and they don't actually want to learn because if you were to teach them, by the way, this isn't just about the public. This isn't just about the layperson. There's a lot of attorneys who do the same thing. There are a lot of people who actually know the law and they still don't want to fight it because it's too time consuming. They don't want to go back and forth, right? I can talk about that all day. Yeah, that it's so rigged because they don't even have to have probable cause. Um, they don't have they don't have to have probable cause for misdemeanor cases. They only have to have probable cause for felonies, which basically shifts the burden of proof because they don't have to prove anything. They can charge you unless you take it to a jury trial. They don't have to produce anything. You have to fight their charges without any evidence whatsoever. They don't have to have any witnesses. They don't have to have they don't have to have any. They don't have to produce shit. You can ask them to produce it. You can do discovery, but that's the part that takes so much damn time. Trying to go back and forth, trying to get the evidence, trying to get them to admit that their speedometer didn't actually calculate, or in my case, they didn't actually do a proper what is it called? They're supposed to do like I forget what the actual term. They're supposed to do a speed study to show what the actual speed is for that location. What is it an actual like they're supposed to do an engineering study to show what the actual speed is, the proper speed is. And if they don't actually do the traffic and engineering study, I think that's what it's called, then that the speed limit is invalid, right? They don't tell you this shit. You got even with my damn legal training, I had to dig through a lot of rigmarole to find out that this is how it actually works. But a lot of times they don't actually conduct these traffic engineering studies. Um, and so the speed limit is illegitimate. But no, they're not going to tell you. They're going to allow you to actually go and just pay it because you don't actually know that they're running a scam on you. And even with my knowledge, it's I can have all the knowledge all in the world, but it still takes so much time to fight against them. You have to take off work. You have to go back and forth to court. Who wants to do that shit? And if you don't have the knowledge, then you actually have to hire some uh, rent-seeking attorney to represent you for $500 an hour, whatever the hell they charge. Um, so here's the problem: when you say that life is what you make it, this is a logical fallacy. You're making an assumption without evidence, right? You can take for granted that people own their life. They don't. I proved this through my disposal rights test in chapter 1. Um, what proof do you have that we're in control of our lives? What proof do you have? I mean, I really want to press people on that. When you keep saying that we have control over our lives, what you're saying is that we have consumer choices of what we put in our bodies, what clothes we wear. I want you to know that democracy is not choice. There's nothing voluntary about democracy. You're born into a specific jurisdiction. Um, you didn't choose that, but because you were born, all of a sudden, that makes it consensual, right? The fact that you exist. Now all of a sudden, democracy is legitimate just because you were born within a specific geographic location. And now every law that has been concocted to enslave you is all of a sudden it's legitimate. You consented to this shit, right? It's an actual social contract that you never actually signed. No, a social contract you were never presented. A social contract where there was no offer, no acceptance, no meeting of the minds, no consideration, nothing. It's a social contract though. You agreed to this shit. You had a soul contract with your parents. You wanted this shit, right? Your soul decided that you wanted to be oppressed for the rest of your damn life. This was your choice. You did this of your own volition. Sure, you love it too, because if you didn't love it, you would just Toyota Corolla yourself. You chose this shit. You love it. Let me see how many comments I have left. Would you say you're an anti-federalist as well? Do you think you could write about um anti-fed? I think I've addressed that before. Anti-federalism. One of the specifically when it comes to anti-federalism, they were concerned primarily with how the Constitution would be construed, which is why they put the Ninth Amendment there. The Ninth Amendment says that the enumeration of certain rights shall not be construed to disparage other rights retained by the people. So what that means is that rights that we had under common law, under natural law, we retain. The Constitution is not exhaustive. Just because we have certain rights that were enumerated does not mean the Constitution does not create rights. The Constitution enumerates certain rights which already existed under natural law. But they have twisted this shit they twisted on his head, right? They're not going with John Locke, which you guys have to read it. And it's a lot of material. It's kind of heavy. John Locke, his framework was based on pre-political rights, that we had rights that existed independent of government, and that the Constitution just enumerates rights. But Rousseau, gosh, I gave Rousseau a little bit too much credit. When I read his shit, the social contract is complete bullshit. Under Rousseau, you don't have rights. You have what Rousseau had. It's called the general will. The general will is that You don't have any rights that are independent of the general will. So whatever rights the social contract gives you, that's what you have. Um, and then that's if you're not familiar with the whole sovereign citizen duopoly, that came from Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He said that you're basically a slave, but you're also a master. So you're a slave because you're bound by whatever the general will says, but you also get to enslave people, which I also addressed in chapter 1. It makes you a complete slave, but you're only a fractional master. You're a fractional master to the extent that your vote is diluted by how many people actually exist within your jurisdiction. So you're a fractional master by the fact that there are 300 million people in the United States. Um, but you're a comprehensive total slave, abject slave, and only a fractional master. So it's not a good bargain. I would say I guess I am an anti-federalist. I would probably say so. Um, well, to some degree, do we control our lives when we have choices to do right and wrong? Um, I think that is illusory. I think you get you guys. For those of you who already downloaded the ebook, and I know some of you were not able, you didn't download it in time. So now you're saying, okay, well, it's not free anymore. I did make it free for 2 days, which is what I said at the beginning of this live stream. So you basically dismiss those 2 days. So if you want me to make it available for free again, I can absolutely do that. But for whatever reason, people are not getting my notifications. So even if I were to make it available for free, everybody's not going to get the notifications. So I don't know what to say. What I say in Appendix B, I basically clarify that a life slave doesn't have any duties. And specifically, we don't have any positive duties. The fact that you were born does not create any legitimate duties. You have reciprocal negative duties. You have a duty to harm those who don't harm you. You have a duty to be honest to those who are honest to you, right? Because those are in your rational self-interest. All these other duties to benefit society, to exist for other people, to be a wage slave, to uh, serve on jury duty, all those duties are completely illegitimate. They're based purely on naked violence, brute force. Behind all these duties is naked violence. Um, let's see. Yes. Unfortunately, I I concur with that statement. I'm not going to go any further because I don't want to be insulting. But yeah, I agree with you. Well, my book is based on anarchism, socialism, pro-mortalism, and anti-natalism. So I wouldn't say that I'm asexual. I'm definitely sexual. Yeah. But yeah, if I, if you're asexual, that's great. Like the law only really serves to be the power of the wealthy over the slaves. It's so disgusting how all of this is set up. Right, and I actually addressed this in chapter 7. Because they're actually going to enslave us even more once AI takes our jobs. Like our labor is really our only leverage, and so once they no longer need our labor, excuse me, we're going to be completely enslaved. By the way, AI is completely illegitimate also because the fact that's backed by state violence, right? Um, the capitalists are not the legitimate owners of AI because it was actually produced by the workers. So even they can say, well, you no longer produce, so you're not the legitimate owners. No, the AI that is replacing everybody was produced by workers. So even that is illegitimate. You guys are going to have to read the book. It's really comprehensive. It explains the complete illegitimacy of this entire uh, life slavery system. Rules for thee, but not for me. The laws only for you, not them. Meanwhile, they can constantly find loopholes and be able to pay millions of dollars to bypass laws relentlessly while you cannot. Well, that's what the whole Epstein case. That's why people are so. That's why they're questioning pearls about the whole Epstein case. Like, they're surprised to learn how the legal system actually works. That the law actually doesn't apply to certain people. You guys, I mean, you know, a lot of people just learned this shit through the Epstein case, and they're so like they're so disgusted. You think that doesn't apply to other circumstances? Epstein, that you guys may. I mean, I'm sorry, not to be insulting, but a lot of people may be shocked by the Epstein case. I'm not. That is how the system actually works. It's pay to play. Judges give complete deference to people depending on their stature in society. They're completely bought and sold. They're captured, right? So, of course, Epstein had all this dirt on all these politicians. He had dirt on judges. Diddy has dirt on a lot of politicians and judges. Um, Probably even has dirt on Trump. I guarantee he does. So they play by completely different rules. Um, well, I appreciate your support. I hope you guys. Unfortunately, the first ebook, I had to make some edits to it. So I think the current version right now is finished. I think I've already fixed the mistakes. That has appendix A, B, and C. So I think I have pretty much like created a complete philosophy which addresses like life slavery. So if you get it now, if you want me to make it available for free again, I can. I'm more interested in people getting the material and actually understand it. It's hard enough to get people to read it. So if you're actually genuinely interested in reading the book, I can make it available for free. Um, just let me know. What's your take on the homeless issue rising across America? This is what I'm talking about. I addressed that in the book. That homelessness is actually created through artificial scarcity. So it is state-backed violence, right? The state has a monopoly on physical force, and there's a lot of vacant homes that um, okay, let me just explain how this works. So, the legitimate owners in the state of nature, the legitimate owner is whoever makes productive use of property or land, right? Um, like legal title is completely illegitimate because the mere fact that you have legal title but you're not making productive use of that property does not make you the legitimate owner. So there's a lot of vacant homes, and the only reason that we have homelessness is because of this artificial scarcity, which is maintained through state violence. So, because the state would deploy violence against those who would seek to be housed in those vacant in that vacant property, that is what creates the artificial scarcity, which creates homelessness. There, there's actually plenty of housing for everybody. But there's a lot of vacant homes which are maintained through violence. So they are not legitimate owners. Just because they have legal title does not make them legitimate owners. They pay for it. They pay property taxes. Um, you guys are going to have to read the book because I explain why that is illegitimate. Because basically, in a state of nature, you would need land in order to survive. So the fact that the state monopolizes all property and that you can't acquire property without renting property from the master state means that you can't exist without permission from the master state. So everything about your existence is involuntary. Everything leads to total enslavement. Um, and so, yeah, if you remove the state violence, right, that is maintaining the artificial scarcity, there would be no homelessness. Everybody would have a home. But that's not the system under which we live. Which this is, and on top of it, they're criminalizing those who are homeless. Right? They're preventing them from acquiring housing through their violence. And then when they are homeless, when they're forced to sleep in public parks, excuse me, then they're going to criminalize them, right? To say that, oh, you just suffer from a mental health problem. You're just mentally ill, so we need to forcibly put you in some mental health facility, which is backdoor imprisonment. They're going to say that it's not imprisonment because it's not technically a jail. But if you're putting someone under psychiatric confinement, it is a seizure under the Fourth Amendment. The, uh, the Fourth Amendment doesn't care about whether it's actually called a prison or a jail. It's about a seizure. A the Fourth Amendment prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures. So if you're seizing someone and putting them in a mental health facility against their will, that is a seizure. It is, and but because it's a civil procedure as opposed to a criminal procedure, they're not entitled to normal due process. Um, they can detain them without a due process hearing for 72 hours. They can extend that without the traditional procedural safeguards. They're not required to actually appoint a court appointed attorney. You actually have to retain an attorney yourself to defend yourself from this oppression at the tune of $500 an hour or whatever egregious charges these rent-sinking parasites are charging in order to get free from this psychiatric confinement. So this is they've created a complete system of enslavement. It's so fucking oppressive. I can't even describe how oppressive this shit is. For those who are thinking about, that's what I say in appendix B. If you're actually thinking about procreating, don't do it. Don't do it. You don't have any legitimate authority to enslave someone to this oppressive fucking system. The mere fact that you want a child to validate your existence, you want a little toy that you can go coochie coochie coo with, that you can feed baby food to, that you can parade around like some fucking puppy. That does not give you legitimate authority to enslave someone. Jean-Jacques Rousseau talked about the the limitations of parental authority. You have authority to raise the child so that they can be a productive member of society. You don't have a right. You don't have legitimate authority to enslave anybody. You have legitimate authority to enslave yourself. Absolutely. You don't have legitimate authority to enslave your children. Now, right. It's a seizure. So under the Fourth Amendment, it is considered a seizure, but they call it a civil. It's all about how they word this shit. They don't call it an arrest, right? They call it an apprehension under the Health and Safety Code, which I've already talked about. How if you're a danger to yourself, they can arrest you, but they're not going to call it an arrest. They're going to call it an apprehension. So they can get around the legal safeguards through basically just changing the terminology. It's not an arrest. We're just apprehending you, and it's for your own good. Right, absolutely. All right, y'all. So I think that is my rant for today. I didn't even plan on saying all that. So I thank y'all for joining me today. I'm going to try to be doing more reviews of my book, and I have a lot of content. I think this book is going to give me endless content. So I have content for both channels, both the Life Abolitionist channel and the Black Anarchist channel. I'm going to be doing more content very soon. Y'all have a good day.